We are live. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on the show.
Mel, I was contemplating. I was like, do you go by the Aloha shirt psychic?
Well, the way that came about was, I love Hawaii. I've studied Hawaiian culture for years. Not the Max Freedom Long stuff, because that's BS, but the real Hawaiian stuff. And so, in the summertime, I always wear Aloha shirts. And so when I started doing YouTube, that's another story unto itself, unto itself. So, I would have on different shirts, but then, as Linda Grindle and I did more shows, she encouraged me to do my YouTube show. She had Danny the bathrobe Tarot or whatever, and everybody had a moniker. And so I thought, well, I always wear Aloha shirts and I love Hawaiian culture and I've studied it for years. And Aloha in Hawaii means love. It means hello, goodbye. And so I thought I'll call myself the Aloha Shirt Psychic. So that's my YouTube handle, kind of.
It's perfect. I love it. It's an honor to have you here. Obviously, I've been watching you for a while, and I'm sure lots of people have been.
It's my honor to be on your show, and at some point you're going to be on mine too. So yay!
It's a treat, yeah. And for you to do a live with me is extra special. So I appreciate it. I was just thinking maybe I should go as the black shirt psychic because I'm always wearing black.
We started calling Kevin Chandler the hoodie psychic or something.
Totally, I think that's suiting. Awesome.
Thank you so much about us doing a collab together on my channel, and she said yes. So good.
I'm looking forward to that. Sounds good.
It won't be live though. I pre-record them.
That's all good though. Mel, with your channel, I'm curious, when did you actually start that? I don't know. I don't actually know a whole lot about you, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time just so that people know. I've got a few questions for you, and then we are going to do some personal questions, some current events, and we will post that. I'll post that when we will open up the questions, but for now, I'm curious to get to know you a little bit. So your channel, why?
I started it in 2020, right? Like during the pandemic, but I didn't do much with it. I'm computer illiterate, and so I had to get this crash course, learn how to do all this stuff. But anyway, then one of my clients, Gunnar Goebel in California, kept telling me about the Comanche Psychic. And but I watched Linda Grindle, the Comanche Psychic's YouTube channel. And he said, I'm going to tell her about you. So I did. And she was emailing me, and I was terrible about answering emails, but we were playing email tag. So we connected, and I said, well, let's do FaceTime. She goes, no, my hair's in curlers. So anyway, she read me, I read her, and she had me on her channel, and she kept encouraging me to do my own. I said, I don't know, got one, I don't know. And she kept encouraging me. So, I just let go of the resistance and did it. And here we are. But, I'm 68. But I've been doing this work for almost 50 years.
Wow.
And so, back in the day here in Chicago, I did a lot of television, a lot of radio. I've done some national television, national radio. I've worked with police departments across the country and overseas. I have a blessing from the Pope for being a psychic with all my work for missing children. So, it's been a good career.
Yeah, I love it. So it takes me to the one of my first questions is, when did you discover your awakened abilities, your gifts? Like when did you become aware of them?
Well, I always knew I could do it. I thought everybody could do it. And I remember being in the second grade, I think, first or second grade. And my mother picked me up from school. And I knew my grandfather on my dad's side had been sick. And I said to my mom, I said, Grandpa died today. And she goes, yeah, how did you know? I said, I just knew. And so, my father was very psychic. He didn't do readings, but he would have dreams that would come true. And so it was just always kind of normal. I was, I think, 12 or 13 before I learned the word psychic. And, when I was 13, my grandmother bought me a Ouija board. Everybody don't send me bad things about me. Because we didn't draw in bad spirits, but Grandma and I used to play the Ouija board. And so that was my mom's mom. but it was kind of in the family. I remember my mom worked in a bowling alley. My mom was a cook, a phenomenal cook. She ran the kitchen, and there was one of the ladies who worked there, and she was very psychic. And she told me, she said, "You have the gift." I said, "I know." She said, "It's called psychic." And she said, "It's going to come to you. It's there, but it'll really come to you when you're around 18. Now, to a 12-year-old, that seems like an eternity."
Mm-hmm.
And, I went to college, and then I moved to Chicago for a couple of years. I took care of my grandfather, and I quit school. And I started doing readings at 18. I sat with a spiritualist for a couple of years while I was here. I went back to Kentucky, finished college, got my master's degree because I was interested in ESP. So I got it in psychology. And then I moved back here. And so I've been doing readings ever since. So she was right, but it was just something I could always do. And go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna say, did you ever take like classes or workshops or
Well,
specifically in the mediumship or?
I sat with a spiritualist for a couple years. Peter Herkos, he was the psychic that worked on the Boston Strangler cases, Sharon Tate murders. He was a mentor. On my own, I've studied Hawaiian stuff for years. I studied Native American shamanism for years. And so, it's just all this acquired knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And, being with a spiritualist, years ago, a lot of the jargon, has changed, but basically it's the same stuff.
Right.
Different words. For example, years ago, they would call it astral projection or clairvoyant travel, and now they call it remote viewing. So,
right. Yeah. Same thing, different term. I totally get that. So you started professionally when you were 18. And have you always have you been doing it full time, or I'm curious what that looks like? Because I know you have an office and a number and people that work with you and all of that. So
when I was 18, what I would do is I would come here, and I had some family here, and I would do readings here, and then I go back to Kentucky. Well, I lived here for a couple of years, and then I moved back to Kentucky, and then I came back, and I've been here ever since. But when I moved back the second time, I worked as a social worker, actually, because I had my master's in psych in geriatrics, but I did my psychic work at nights and on the weekends. And after about, 10 years of doing, the social work in geriatrics and seeing all that death and dying and all that stuff, I just thought, I'm going to do my psychic work full time. And it was probably around 2 years before I left social work. A friend of mine knew a radio announcer, a big radio station here in Chicago, and she told her about me, and she had me on the radio. And I was one of the first psychics in Chicago back in the day to go on the radio, and I became kind of a regular. And then other radio shows wanted me, and then one of the producers back in the day was called Continental Cablevision, and cable was big back then. Asked me to come on and do a show about being a psychic. And I remember the first TV show, I was like, it looks like this on camera. But it went really well. And I became a regular on that show. It's called Lifestyle. And it actually, Pat Sheffer, the hostess, won an award. And it was a very high-rated cable show. And so, then I had write-ups in newspapers and things like that. Peter Herkos was the psychic that got me started into forensic. Mm-hmm. And so
you were just sharing about that book. Yeah, do share.
I worked on a lot of big cases. One of the most heinous ones in Palatine, is a suburb of Chicago. There were 7 employees of a place called Brown's Chicken. It's kind of like a Kentucky Fried Chicken, but it was called Brown's Chicken. And there were 7 of them that were murdered. And so Linda Batrina and I, she was my partner in crime. We worked on cases together. We were called in by the actually behind the scenes by the police department and by the news crew, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And so we worked on that case, and we thought that they would find the perpetrators. We saw the number 10. We thought it would be 10 months, but it was 10 years. So that was a very well-known case. I've worked on some big cases. I used to do a lot more of it, but not so much anymore. I still do, but not like I used to.
Yeah, I know from just like some of the people that I've worked with, the establishing that relationship with someone where you have the trust before you start giving information about cases that are happening in the public is really important. So,
People
um,
people will ask me to give like predictions about missing people and stuff, and I don't do that.
yeah,
Um, I would only take a case, for example, if a family came to me,
right,
and I would tell them the information. And if they told the police and the police came to me, then it would be I would no longer have anything to do with the family.
right.
So I did my cases at no charge. I still do those kind of cases.
Wow.
Nobody went to the press. And if the police came, then I couldn't have anything to do with the family, because a lot of times it's a family member is a person
Of interest. Sure.
a person of interest.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Mel, I'm curious about like how it's received now because you've done it through some generations. So how is it received now when you're at a party or you're at a social gathering or whatever that looks like, and you're asked, "What do you do?" Like, how is it that you find people receive that now versus say, 20, 30 years ago?
well, a lot of people in Chicago here know me.
Oh, okay.
You're now the psychic. What do you see from me? And I go, an appointment.
Yeah, totally.
The,
That's
the
a
sense
good
of
one. I want
humor,
to borrow that.
the sense of humor carries you through a lot.
It's true.
You know, my husband and I just got back from a trip to the American West in April. It was canyons and deserts of the American West. And, we started in Las Vegas, and then we ended up in Arizona, and we ended up in Sedona. And I had to go back to Sedona 2 weeks later to teach classes with Linda Grindle. But anyway, there was some people on the tour, and they asked me what I did. And I said, consultant. So when we got to Sedona, we all went to this place to eat. And there was this lady at the bar, and she said she was a psychic, and she was totally soused. And she was giving us information that was complete BS. So one of the ladies said, what do you think about that? I said, well, hers was BS. I said, but I do psychic work and I teach it and all. She goes, oh my God. And so we become very good friends, actually. She's from Louisiana. And so it depends,
Mhm.
The thing that bothers me about it is when you say you're psychic, well, if you're so psychic, tell me something about myself.
Right.
No, I'm not here to prove or disprove anything to anybody.
Yeah, skeptical is okay. It's when people are cynical and it's like you have to prove it. It's like, no, that's not a part of it. So I'm curious if you ever found times in your life or even currently that you struggled with it, having the gifts.
Struggling in what way?
Just like finding it challenging in, I guess, like sometimes just knowing the information or receiving things or just um, I don't know if you're able to like really turn it down or what that looks like, but just I guess living with it. Like so many people look to develop and to be in that connection and have the abilities and to grow them or unveil them. And in that, I'm just curious if you've ever struggled with having gifts in your life.
Well, it used to be like when I was on the dating scene, and even with my
Mhm.
husband now, it was funny because I would go out with somebody a couple times and they seemed interested, and then they wouldn't call me anymore. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? And it dawned on me, I'm telling them I'm a psychic.
Oh,
And so they were afraid of it, or they thought I was in their head and I was reading their every thought,
mm,
all their deep, dark secrets. In fact, when my husband and I started dating, he said, I almost didn't want to date you because I was afraid you could get in my head. I said, well, I know all your secrets anyway, which I didn't. But I think, once we were together, he figures out Mel's too busy. He's not in my head.
yeah.
And, if I pick up stuff, I won't really offer the information
Mm,
unless somebody asks me to, because I never want to be intrusive.
right.
So, I'm not like at the grocery store, like on TV, going up to people,
Mhm.
oh, I see for you. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I can kind of block it.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
And the ethic around it, being integral and ethical and not soliciting, tapping somebody on the shoulder at the grocery store. And yeah, we see it, and there's that entertaining part of it. But that's not that to me. That's not real life. That's not how this should be looked at. And I know in North America we don't have like they do in the UK, where you can go to jail for giving a bad reading. There is such a process to actually be a psychic. And in North America, we don't have that governing um, part of it. And so I think it's really important that we are in the demonstration of being really ethical and integral in it for people that are learning and growing and sometimes just need the reminder. But I love that.
I had a guy stop by my office the other day, and he told my office manager, "Oh, I just want a couple about 10 minutes of Mel's time."
Mhm.
Number one, people have appointments, and so when I came out, she said, "Oh, this man wants 10 minutes of your time." I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, you really have to make an appointment because I got somebody waiting." "Oh, well, I just want to know if like you'd work on a case. I can't tell you what it is, and let's just see if you can figure it out because I'm trying to prove or disprove if these psychics really are any good at working on cases." And I looked at him and I said, "I don't have to prove anything to you or anybody."
Mhm.
I said, "And as a psychic, the cases I've worked on, we don't solve the case. But if we give a clue or a couple of clues that helps with the case,
Yeah.
great." I said, "So, sir, it sounds to me like you're trying to start your own YouTube channel. And it sounds to me like you're just trying to get followers. So I wish you the best, but I'm sorry, you'll have to find somebody else."
Yeah. I love that, Mel. Um, can you share with us an experience that, and so it sounded like from growing up with your dad being psychic and your mom open to it, your grandmother. Um, can you share an experience that deeply um, or profoundly deepened your trust with spirit?
I always had it.
Mm,
I never questioned it. It was just
I
so
love it.
normal for me. It's like, I can dance or I can cook or I breathe. And so for me, it was just always there.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I don't know if there was anything that was super duper profound. It was just always there.
Yeah,
Um, my
I
grandmother,
love. I
my
think I relate to it because there's that. It's so natural to me as well that it was more of like the unveiling through my experiences and growing up than it was like me actually being taught something. And that's not for everybody, but I find um, I can kind of identify that in other people that have that similar. So it's interesting.
my
It's
grandmother
interesting.
was from the Appalachian Mountains, and she had a heavy, heavy accent. And she
Mm,
would say, "The dead ones won't hurt you; it's the live ones you got to worry about." And she was right.
she's so right.
You know,
Yeah.
um,
So
I mean, I've had things that with clear cognizance. It means we know. We don't know how we know or what we know. We just know. There was like for example, when my dad died. I lived here in Chicago, and this was before cell phones. This was in 1987 or 88. You were just a child.
mm,
um, I had a vision of my father in a coffin. Now, he had been ill, and I thought, that's horrible. And it just kept hitting me. It was a clairvoyant thing. And so my cousin drove up, and she said, "Why aren't you answering the phone?" I said, "Because I've been sitting out here waiting for you to come and get me." And she said, "You need to go call the hospital." I said, "Why would I call the hospital?" She said, "Just go call the hospital." She said, "They called me." I said, "Why would they call you?" She said, "Because they're trying to get a hold of you and they can't." So I went in and I called the hospital. My sister came to the phone and she was crying. I said, "Uh-oh, what's going on?" She said, "Dad just died."
mm,
And it was at the time when I had that vision of him in a coffin. And so, psychic energy is fueled by an emotion.
right.
So, sometimes the gift, I call it the gift, can be a
Mhm.
blessing. It can be a curse at times
Yeah.
too.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that ties into the challenge part of, you know, having a human experience with the other part of it. Um, what would you say your stronger clairs are? What do you, or do you use them all? Do you, um,
All of them, actually. I mean,
yeah.
there's clairvoyance, clairaudience, there's uh, clairambience, there's clairgustance,
Yeah.
clairalience, is the same. There's I got to think of the clairs. Clairtactus, just cold chills. That's the most common. Like when I get cold chills, it means truth or spirit presence. But sometimes you
Mhm.
feel the touch. Mine is mostly telepathic when I communicate with spirit. I think all of it, for all of us, it is.
Yeah.
Telepathy means thought transference. So I'm very visual, but I have a hearing impairment. I have hearing aids in, and my dog helps with my hearing. But I'm also clairaudient. I think I'm all of them, really.
Mhm.
Like, for
Wow.
example, if I was working on a missing person, and if I got that funny smell, like when you walk in a funeral home, and if I
Mhm.
saw a hand like this in a coffin, I knew the person that went missing was deceased.
Oh, okay.
And then if they're deceased, you have to figure out, was it suicide? Was it accidental? Was it a homicide? If it's a homicide, who did it? And so there's this whole litany of checklist you kind of go through.
Yeah.
Uh,
Interesting. That book that you were sharing, can you share that book?
yeah, it's out of print right now, but it's called Chicago's Haunt Detective, and it was by Raymond Johnson. He was retired law enforcement, and there was two cases I had worked on. One was of just a piece of a skull from here up, from the Lake County Coroner's Office up
Oh,
north, and they
wow.
brought it to me because it had just been in a cold case for years. And so they let me bring it home actually. And
Oh,
then
wow.
somebody wrote a bad write up in the Tribune saying it was a waste of taxpayers' money. I'm like, no, it wasn't, because I didn't get paid to do it.
Oh,
But
boy.
I identified it as a woman of color, and went on. And a lot of times when you work on a case, you don't really know the outcome. You just give what you need to say, and next case. The other one was an astrologer, Sandra Allard, and she had a townhome, and the neighbors smelled smoke. And they called the fire department. When the fire department went in, they went upstairs in the bedroom, and they thought it was a chair, but it was her body. She'd been
Oh,
setting fire. And it was a pretty heinous murder.
wow.
And so we worked on that one. Um, so there's been a lot of cases that I've worked on. I don't want to go into details because I don't want to freak people out.
Read the book.
Yeah, right.
Read the book. Um, that's awesome. I'm just putting up a note here that if you do have questions, specifically for Mel, we're also open to some personal or current events. I know Mel does a lot of the politics on his channel and current events. So you're not on tonight after all.
No,
You're,
yeah, you know what? I was going to do one immediately following this with Kevin Chandler, but he's got some issues with an infected tooth or something. So I
oh
think I'm
boy.
going to do it Monday or Tuesday night. Monday, Linda's going to be on my channel, and then at some point, you're going to be on with Linda and I. And I'm so glad we're doing this. This is really,
Hmm.
you know,
So fun.
usually I'm answering questions, like psychic questions, but typically I don't talk a lot about myself because I didn't think people would be interested. But somebody in the comments just said that.
Very interesting. I'm reading them. I'm a little bit, I'm listening too, but I'm distracted by that. Yeah. And that's the thing. I kind of looked at some of your videos, and there's not a lot of just the personal stuff, and people are curious. So I appreciate it. Once again, thank you for
Well,
um,
my
sharing
hobby
that.
is dog training.
Say
Um,
again.
my hobby is dog training. I'm passionate about
Oh,
it.
okay.
In fact,
Mm.
I'm qualified to evaluate dogs through the American Kennel Club for Canine Good Citizen, Canine Good Citizen Advanced.
Oh,
But
wow.
our dog, Lucky, she's a therapy dog, but she's also a service dog. She helps with my hearing. And so a service dog is a dog that's trained to help someone with a disability. So for all y'all out there, if you see a service dog that's a service dog, do not pet. Don't pet the dog,
Jump.
because it
Mhm.
distracts the dog from doing the work. And
Yeah.
maybe there's some kind of sound I don't hear that could pose a danger to me. And if she's busy paying attention to that person petting her, she's not alerting me to something that might be dangerous for me. So, but I let her be a dog as well. I take her to work with me every day, and
Oh, I was going to ask you that.
she doesn't have to work at the office. She gets to just when people come in, she'll greet them with her toy. And, I had a, well, for example, a lady today was really uptight. She was going through a nasty divorce. And when she came in, I had another client. And when I walked out there, Lucky's just laying over getting the tummy rub. And the lady goes, I was so nervous when I came in here, but now I'm so relaxed because of this dog. I said, yeah, she knows her job. And so she's a sweetie. I bring her to work with me every day.
Wonderful. We're getting lots of questions, and yes, lots of people are interested in you, Mel. So thank you for sharing. I want you to share the because I'm so fascinated with Africa, and I know that you're going to. Is it Uganda that the trip is, or whereabouts
Yes.
you? Yeah, it's Uganda. If you wanted to share that, and I'll just start a few more questions.
Okay, so I had it sold out, but there's a travel advisory going to Uganda, but there's always a travel advisory going to Uganda. And some people from Canada actually want to go. But the places we're going to be going are the safest places in Africa. At least, we're going to be going to, I think, 4 different safari camps. And they're tents, but they're like glamping. They're like hot and cold water, bathrooms, all of that. But it's, in addition to the gorillas, it's going to be really neat because it's going to be a cultural exchange. So one day we'll spend a day in a Ugandan school, and the money from this program helps those kids. One day we'll spend with the local tribe, and we'll share stories and their dance and drums and all kinds of things. One day we'll be on the river to see the hippos and the elephants. One day we'll be on the savannah to see the lions and all the wildlife. One day we'll hike in to see the chimpanzees. The last day we'll hike in to see the mountain gorillas. And we get to spend an hour with them, and you can't get within 6 feet. Now, the people that I've talked to that have done this trip, and it's a brand new trip, it just came out this year, they said it was life-changing. So it's this.
Trip of a lifetime.
It is. And there's only 10 rooms, so only 20 people can go.
Okay.
And like I said, the safari camps, and they border the national parks. We'll have a park ranger with us, actually 2, and then they'll have porters to help people, get to and from and all that. And they are armed, but not so much because of people, but because of the unlikely event that anybody's charged by an animal, which I doubt will happen. They shoot up in the air, they don't kill the animal. Yeah. So, and the mountain gorillas were almost extinct. So the money from these things goes to help bring them back as well, and they're coming back. So the whole tour is $7,400, but that includes round trip airfare from Chicago, all food, lodging. The licenses alone to see these are like $1,000, but that money, that license money, the Ugandan government uses to go to upkeep the parks, to bring back the mountain gorillas. So it's really cool. So it'll be a cultural exchange as well. So if you're interested, call my office, 847-590-5411. Again, 847-590-5411. If you're going to come from Canada, you need to get a visa from the Canadian government. Or you need to get a visa. Just go to your, CanadianGovernment.org or whatever it is, and they'll tell you what you need to do to get the visa to go to Uganda.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing.
That's going to be so cool. Talking about reconnecting with nature.
No kidding.
People that want to be animal communicators, it'll be amazing.
Yeah, and just immersing into their culture. That fascinates me as well.
So it is a safe trip. I know people get afraid. They're fear-based, but it's through Mayflower Cruises and Tours. They would not take a trip that's going to put anybody in danger. They just And I'm a psychic.
This one before, yeah.
If I'm a psychic. If I thought there was any danger, I clearly wouldn't be going.
He would not be going. So is it sold out, or is there room?
I do have room. You know what? I think I've got room for 3 more people. That's it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, if you feel called to it, reach out.
Now, normally on these trips, not to Uganda, but typically the trips I put together through Mayflower, final payment is due 3 months before our departure. But on this one, the final payment is due by December the 7th. And the reason for that is Mayflower has to get the licenses 6 months prior to us going to Uganda, they have to get the licenses to see the gorillas and the chimpanzees. So that's why final payment is due on December 7th of this year. And Mayflower just called me, and they're ordering the licenses already. So they're really kind of pushing the final sale. So if anybody's interested, get in touch with me right away because it's going to sell out. It was already sold out, but 5 people decided not to go. So that's why I got the openings.
Someone was asking, is that the place? I don't think it is, or maybe it is. I actually don't know this. The place that Ellen DeGeneres is involved with. She's got a sanctuary that I think it's different. I'm pretty sure it sounds different than that one. Yeah, I'm gonna say that is a different one. I think she got it for a birthday present.
Ever since I was in college, I've always been interested in Diane Fossey. She was killed by soldiers, actually, because we were in Uganda with the mountain gorillas.
Yeah.
In Kenya, it was on the border. And so when this trip came about, I found out about it in March of this year. And I said, I want the whole tour, because there's only 5 tours going. And I said, I want the whole tour. And so they said, okay, fine. But I told them I couldn't start selling it really until after July, because they had 27 people going to Croatia. So it's pretty much sold out. So I've got room for about 3 people. So
I think that's going to sell out pretty darn quick now.
Well, good. I'll take that as a prediction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Shall we do some questions?
Yep.
Let's do it. Okay. So if I've got
what is the date of the trip? Chris wants to know. Chris, the date of the trip is June the 7th of 2023, and it's for 9 days through the 16th. If you're interested in going, again, call my office, 847-590-5411. And at this point, it's whoever calls, then and they book. Whoever, people say, let me think about it. I said, don't think too long, because it's going to sell out. And if you say you'll get back to me in a week, and if I sell those 3 before that week's up, then sorry.
Yeah. I've got Mel's contact, his channel, and then I will add the phone number, if he likes, under in the description box, so that if you are interested, reach out. And then what about people interested in booking? Is it through the same number for
they can call my office at 847-590-5411. Again, 847-590-5411. Our office is closed on Sundays and Mondays.
Perfect. Days off. Imagine that.
Days back to back. I didn't have that for years. Now I feel like, yay.
Amazing. All right. So let's do some questions. This one's catching my eye. Colleen McSpirit. I mean, great name. Any spirit guidance for me at this time? Lots of paths are uncertain about which direction to go in. Thank you.
Could you repeat that again?
Any spirit guidance for me at this time in my life? Lots of past and uncertain about which direction to go in. From Colleen.
You want to start with it?
Sure.
Sometimes being, in the Native American way, the direction of the West is the bear. The bear hibernates. And so sometimes when we feel like we're stuck, maybe we're not stuck. We just need to recharge our batteries and hibernate for a little bit, direction of the bear. And so my advice would be to meditate toward the West. That's the bear direction. And what happens when bear wakes up? It's hungry. It's powerful. It's got new ideas. So I don't think you're as stuck or as uncertain as you think you are. I'm feeling that Colleen's very intuitive, highly intuitive. I'm seeing Colleen starting to maybe delve into something with metaphysics, meaning like psychic stuff, healing energies, things like that. So I would say check that out.
Yeah, I think exactly that. The first card that I pulled was the you are a powerful light worker. So that's just it. Those moments of pause and going inward are a great opportunity. And we're never not where we're supposed to be in any given moment. So sometimes it's not according to our preference, but we can see that as a gift. And so in this moment, it is a call to go inward. You actually have all the answers. And sometimes we do need to look outward to get a little bit of clarity, sometimes a little bit of reassurance, but that when we go inward and we follow that, we're never not on the right path. So I think that going into the winter with the energy and the medicine of the bear feels real good. It's like cozy up. Sometimes we need to, in that place of where we're feeling like we're uncertain of where to go, it's a call to be a little bit more grounded. So sometimes even just putting on the heavier sweater, the feet in the earth, and really be in that power feels really good for you. So I love it. I love the medicine of the animals. The bear couldn't be more
Cool.
perfect. So
Mine is Wolf, direction of the South, intuition. But Colleen, I don't know if it's healing modalities or doing readings or all of the above, but it hit me really strongly. And I would continue to pursue that. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes when we want to do our readings or our healing work, we sit with no clients and people get nervous. But I think, the universe will provide for you the people that need your service. But we have to be proactive about it. So my advice is hang in there and just continue doing your spiritual work.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I do get a
giggle, so I have a nervous giggle, so I apologize.
So do I.
Oh, good. We're in the giggle book.
People have given me slack for that.
Me too.
Anyways, I haven't stopped giggling. So
I tell them, read between the lines. Here's with my nervous giggle.
High five to that, Mel. Thank you. But Colleen, all the best in that. And I was going to say, I do get a bit of a hit around your hands. So there is a call potentially for some hands-on healing. There's something potentially there for you. So
see, that's like me. Whenever I see the symbol of the hands and I get like an electric kind of vibration, that means the person needs to explore healing modalities.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's your Claire practice.
That's it in a nutshell. Humanity is asking, can you read on my job? Should I stay or should I go?
Well, I can't tell you to stay or leave. But what I do see is a job change coming for you. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to say when? Well, my timing's horrid, but I see the number 3. It could be 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. It feels
Mel's correct in that. Here's the number 33 card.
It feels kind of toxic there. Obviously when you start looking, you're going to have doors closed in your face. It doesn't take me to tell you that. But just don't take something that comes along because it's different or because it's getting you out of the current situation. Use your intuition. Anytime your intuition tells you something feels okay, but that but is your intuition's way of saying it ain't right. So listen to your but. I see an offer coming through your own feelers that'll feel right. That's the one to take.
Yeah. It's perfect. It's the ears wide open, which is the number 33. So in those threes, that is that connection to spirit as well. If you and here's the thing, you already know what to do. If that requires action, there's success. So whether you stay or whether you go, you make your next best decision. Either way will be successful. You get to decide. And so I agree. Telling someone you should quit your job or not, it's curious that you're asking. It feels like you might have already made up your mind.
So, well, I was going to say, by virtue of the fact that you're asking, here's the answer.
Yeah, which is often the sign. So all the best. There seems to be lots of people changing jobs. Lots of change. I know that in my personal readings, people are going through relationship changes, almost like this parallel in the life review that we have when we transition and seeing kind of the impact and where our time was spent, the energy, what that looked like. People are doing that now. And it's such a gift when we get to pause and we life review and we get to say, I'm going to spend my energy here or I'm not. So the changes it's a real big, there's a surge in the changes that are happening in our lives. So
I think a lot of things are coming out of the closet, I mean, I used to say, what's worse than growing up gay in the late 60s and early 70s in the South, growing up gay and psychic in the late 60s and early 70s in the South. So, the work that I've done, well, I can't take credit for it, but the work that many of us done has, I think, helped open the doors to get to making this more widestream, so people are a lot more open to it than they used to be years ago. So, it is an energy shift. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's curious. All right, where we are. Marcia, if you're still here, Marcia Baldwin is asking a message from guides or angels. Thank you.
I'm just listening to your inner self. I mean, you're getting the intuition. It's the first thing that comes through. And it's about just listening to that internalized radar or something. I'm just wondering if this person's having some relationship issues. I feel what's going on there.
It's funny you say that because I heard declutter.
A relationship.
Yeah, Marcia, curious. It feels like you're going through, I don't know if you actually are moving, but it's like I can see the boxes and the energy of like things are moving, and the decluttering. So whether it's literal or not, it does feel like that is the invitation that Spirit is acknowledging for you to take a look and doing kind of like that life review, if you will, kind of inventory and seeing the okay, so there's an aspect of the energy. It feels like there's something that's drawing a lot more energy than it actually is giving back. And so I think Mel might have hit on that. I do get that it is relationship as well. So yeah, you get to be in the driver's seat. So if it's draining your battery,
recharge, take your power back. That's the message I'm getting. Take your power back.
Yeah.
It's funny, Kevin, because you're the only other psychic that I've worked with that when you see packed boxes, I see boxes, it means a move. And I thought I was the only one, but yay. So we're getting a lot of the same symbology.
Yeah. And it's interesting though, because what you were actually originally saying, I'm trying to make sense of this card. It's the dream thief. And so it's like, it's the refusal of the call. So it feels like this energy has been the same, if you will, and we get to answer it or not. So it brings us back to that place of being within our power. And yes, it takes something to make difficult decisions, but we're always in a opportunity of making a choice. So in that, it feels like a bit of a repeat for you. So just bring that to your attention. So
I'm doing three things at once here. I'm watching the comments, and this is a good one from Jason. It just says, Jason, you seem so desperate. Can I please have a message from Spirit or advice? And so I'm getting that Jason's going through a confusing period because my head is all confused.
Mel, it's so funny. That was the next question.
That is called precognition.
We were just displaying that telepathy. So there you go. Carry on, Mel. Sorry.
No, it's like perfect example of the things we've been talking about. You don't know how you know or what you know, but Spirit just led me to that question. Because I felt a lot of confusion around Jason, and I don't want to say delusion, confusion, but oh boy, it feels like there's some self-acceptance issues going on there, and all I can say is just be who you are. That's what Spirit is saying. Just honor yourself. And I see some dark clouds around the head area. So I don't know if it's just depression or funk, but then Spirit shows me those dark clouds rising. And then there's a beautiful light, which means that funk will rise. The answers aren't going to come like that, but I do see a lot more clarity coming.
Yeah. Interesting. As you're talking about the energy of the fox is walking in around you, Jason, and that can be the real trickster. So it does bring me to the thoughts, and we we can participate in that because our thoughts will then create our reality. So just being mindful of what those thoughts are, and spirit's drawing you into the fox is wandering off, and it's starting to get dark, and you're around a campfire, and the fire is really calling you to be in community. So there's an invitation for you to kind of find your tribe, be with your tribe, be with your community. That's really something that is, yeah, it's necessary, is what they're saying. So,
I just
yeah.
heard honor your wisdom, Jason. Be who
Mm,
you are. It's okay. That's eagle as well. But fox was good for him because it can be the trickster. But the fox is very smart. And
totally.
when it uses its cleverness for a purpose, it gets things done.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it can also be the trickster. You're right.
I mean, that's the duality in everything, which is really great. And it's how we place, our perspective around things that it can be serving or not. So,
Right.
all the best to you, Jason.
A lot of animals coming through tonight. Yay.
I love the animals.
Me
Oh
too.
my gosh.
I'm a critter person.
Yeah. When you meet people and they're like, I was just talking about this with a client not too long ago about, I have to be careful what I'm saying because I don't want, when someone comes to your house, let's say, and they don't acknowledge your pets, I'm like,
I know.
sorry, I know it's a bad one for me.
I had a girl today. She said her boyfriend didn't like dogs. I said, then get rid of them. That was my, I got this, like, I have a BS bell on my desk. And sometimes if they say, I'll ring my BS bell. I took my pen and I was ringing the bell. I said, that's my BS bell. And I went like this. I said, he doesn't like dogs. I went, get rid of him.
Yeah, declutter.
The mail up. It's like, are you for real? Not you, but it was like.
I get it. All right. Roxanne is talking about change as well. Message, anything good to look forward to. Always. Things are changing.
Well, here's the way I look at that. People worry about lack of abundance. And here's what I had to learn. And it's we can all do it, is just to look around and look at the blessings that you do have and say, okay, what am I thankful for having?
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're asking, anything good to look forward to, like money, trip, this, that. But I just look forward to every moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a message for Roxanne as well. I don't know if that answers it, but I know it's not what she's looking for. I get that. But
and that's okay. I love that how spirit will sometimes, they answer it in a different way. And that's always such a beautiful thing that they're taking me to the secret, and how in Western culture, we got parts of that right and we got parts of it very wrong. And in it, I think the follow-up, there's a prompt, and this doesn't happen very often, but there's a invitation for you to look at the magic, and it's the follow-up, and it's about being in gratitude. And it's not to say that you're not, but when we're in it in the daily and we place our attention to it, it becomes infectious, and it just grows, and we become more and more grateful of all the little things. And it's not to say that, because yes, none of us are separate from the abundance that there is in life. And so we don't have to, okay, so that card. So it's about cherishing yourself, they're saying. So in that's actually the starting place. We don't have to look externally when we feel good about ourselves. And then that little shift in the gratitude, if you do feel called to it, I think it's called the magic. And it's all about the gratitude. And they actually give you exercises. So that, I think it's a 30-day, don't quote me on that, but to really get us in the practice of being in gratitude, and that can shift and that can change people's lives. So lots to look forward to.
I'm thankful for my dog. I'm thankful for having a warm place. I'm thankful for food on the table. I'm thankful for you know, for the clothing. I'm thankful for, you know, and sometimes I get wrapped up in that. Boy, if I won the lotto, but like, you know, Mel, just be thankful for what you have, because that can be because all the stuff that we have could be taken away in a nanosecond.
Yeah. And that's just it. It brings us back to this very present moment. So when we're in the past and we're in the future and all of that, we're not in this moment. So the gratefulness that we have in this very moment is, I mean, the list is endless. So all the best to you, Roxanne.
I do see new partnerships coming for Roxanne, and I do see some kind of trip. I see a boat going over water. That's a symbol of a trip. And I don't mean like going to the next province.
Stop it.
There you go.
It's about being in the flow.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was pretty good at remote viewing, by the way. So I think that's what's going on here.
I love it. Spirits in sync. All right. Patricia, lovely Patricia. Actually, I will say a little shout out. 2 pieces of the art that are behind me there are from the lovely Patricia. And I've never done a reading for her, I don't think, live.
So it looks like that she is channeling that information. I mean, obviously you have to be able to draw to do it.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's art channel or, well, mediumship or whatever. And, you know, your own development. Well, I think, you know, provided we're being proactive at it, we develop at the pace that Spirit wants us to develop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm an Aries. When God was handing out patience, I stood in the attitude line. So I want it yesterday. But I love the spirit. I'll call them spirit drawings or spirit paintings, and I can see some sacred geometry in those.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd really be a good trance medium as well, Patricia. You know, it's kind of like when you're doing that, when you're drawing, it's like when I'm cooking or dancing, or I love to draw. I call it in the zone. It's like the total meditative state. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
She's also got healing abilities and also very strong psychic abilities. So, and I'm hearing maybe start to try to draw some animal spirits.
Oh, interesting.
I love the energy.
Yeah. Fascinating woman. I know bits of this and those, I would echo all of what you just said. And I know that a few of them are already in development. And that's the thing, I think it goes back to that unveiling of the naturalness in this. It's like no one can really teach you per se. It's that unveiling of what is there by nature. And in that, the one thing that Spirit is saying, Patricia, is that you just have to show up. So it's like we have to participate and actually say yes to some things that might be like uncomfortable or that we might be fearful of. So our participation in it is also very, very necessary. So,
you know, I grew up with that whole fear thing, being gay and, you know, thinking I was the only one and, you know, being fearful. And then one day my grandmother told me, honey, when your name is written on the bathroom walls, that means you're important. My grandma had this wisdom that was unreal. Very down.
I love your grandma. I think she's probably hanging out with my grandma.
Certainly wasn't coated in chocolate, that's for sure.
Oh my God. I love it.
But I think you gave Patricia a really good message. It's like, step out of the fear and don't be fearful of what others think. Just do your work.
Yeah. Do it. Let it be seen. That's the thing. You're there for the world, they're saying. You are for the world. So be seen in that. And we have to participate. We have to show up. Mel, I'm curious, it brought me to a question. Was it more difficult to come out spiritually than it was being gay, or neither?
Well, you know, I mean, my mother was Catholic and my father was evangelical reform, which is a very liberal Protestant church. So, you know, from the time that we were 11 or 12, we had to go through confirmation class every Friday. We started with the Bible from Genesis and we ended with Revelation. But it was kind of cool because we got, you know, the Catholic stuff and the stuff from Dad's religion. And Dad's religion was pretty progressive, not Catholicism a little different. But, you know, I have been told so many times growing up in the South that the work I was doing was of the devil. And, you know, I've even had people like say to me, have you been born again? I was like, no, my mother did it right the first time. Thank you. Or are you a practicing homosexual? I mean, like, I didn't have to practice. It just kind of came natural, you know? Uh, or, you know, Jesus? Well, I never really met him, but, you know, if he knocks on the door, I'll say hi.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, are people coming to say they're going to save my soul? And I'm like, from what? So, you know, I didn't have to prove anything to them. And I thought they can believe what they believe. I'm going to believe what I'm going to believe. And I'm just going to do my work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the whole gay thing was hard too, because, you know, being called back in those days, sissy, faggot, queer, and to get beat up and all of that stuff, you know, but I had to learn to forgive. And I carried a grudge for a long time, but it was no good to do that because that just ate away at me and I had to let it go. And so I guess I wouldn't want to live through that again. But if I look back at it, it was really a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
So I think it was a combination of both. The religious stuff, you know, I really wasn't in the closet with that. I just did it. It was just normal.
Right.
And so, but you know, I've been around all of that judgmental stuff my entire life. And I just think if they want to stay in judgment, fine, but that doesn't have to be who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
I think it totally does. Yeah. And yeah, I think it totally does. All right. Why don't we do one more question here? We've got.
I could just go on and keep doing this. This is so much fun.
I know. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, it's not to put you on the spot, but I'd love to have you back, and we'll do lots of them.
You just let me know when, and I
will. I appreciate
it. When I think about the South, my accent comes back. So.
It's perfect. Rose Flower, that's a beautiful name. Can I please have a message from my guides? Lots of questions about guides. So actually, that was actually one of the questions, Mel, that I didn't get to, but Spirit's reminding me. So you so effortlessly are in demonstration with your connection with your guides, where it's like it just comes across so natural. So in that, for people that are maybe struggling or challenged with connecting with their guides, do you have any tips for them around that?
Our guides are always with us. I think the thing is, most people think they're going to hit us over the head with a ton of bricks, and they think that, you know, that we're going to see our guides like we're looking at each other. It doesn't work that way. You know, I tell my students, pay attention to that first thing that comes through. It might be visual. It might be auditory, like inner voice. It might be a feeling. That first thing that comes through is a message from your guide. That's your intuition. But then what happens is we get hung up on analysis paralysis. Is that me thinking this? Was that really my guide? What if? And so I just tell my students to give the message. Yeah. And so my advice to everybody is it's that first thing that comes through, not wishful thinking, but that first thing that comes through. You know, your guides, they're not going to materialize in front of you like we're looking at each other. It's more of a telepathic thing. You know, I see them in my mind's eye. I do see orbs, and I have seen spirit, of course. But I teach my students to pay attention to the subtle things, because those are the ones that have a lot of meaning.
Yeah, I love it. Actually, that parallels in my mediumship, and probably in yours as well, where it's like the way that we get out of the way and we just deliver and spend less time interpreting, because we can totally mess it up. Or I know I can. It's like just those subtle pieces of information without all of the thoughts around it. Those are direct communications with your guides, your loved ones, and we all have this ability. And yes, it can look different, but if we spend less time questioning ourselves when we get the information and just deliver it, if you will, and be with that, that is the communication. Because you all have the ability to connect with your guides. And yes, it's great to ask other people. I ask some of my friends for information when this is getting too much in the way and I can't read for myself.
None of us
I
can.
look outward.
It's impossible.
Yeah, it's so true.
Are you?
All right.
Have you been having a shoulder problem?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I'm just comfortable.
No. Or your partner? Because I'm feeling something in the neck running down into the shoulder, and I don't know.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he is. He
Because that was around you, and Spirit was saying, "Don't let them crack the neck. Massage, but no cracking."
Yeah, you know what it is? It's two things. He's got something with his arm, and then the other one, he got his booster yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, yeah, pick an arm, Mel.
Like,
yeah.
So see, what happened just then is a good example. Like, it was like either for you or around you, and Spirit gave it to me, and I just let it out. I didn't try to figure it out. I didn't do any of that. Because you're right. When you try to figure it out, you'll screw it up. Like a lot of cases with police that I've worked on, I was telling them when I was feeling, they're going, you're right. And it ended up being wrong because what was happening was I was hooked into what they were thinking telepathically. And then I started trying to play detective and it got screwed up.
Yeah. Happens.
It does happen.
Yeah. For Rose, I feel like it feels like you've been just preparing, and it's like in that it feels like things are coming to fruition for you. So in all of the work that you've done, it feels like right now you're starting to really see and feel, which is actually more important, things kind of coming to fruition for you. So Spirit's really just acknowledging all of the effort that you've put in through the ups and downs, and just being really in the moment and celebrating yourself for it, for all of the work that you've done to be here. So,
and also, Rose, do your metaphysical and psychic work because they're that.
Yeah, and that's just it. I think that the part of the answer was about the guides and just being in that how that was demonstrated was also for Rose. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's how it works. We give the information and we didn't even have to address the question because it was directed for her, but for a lot of other people as well.
Yeah. Yes, we're never excluded in it. And if the message feels like it resonated for you, then take it. It was also for you, because that's their ability. They'll piggyback and all of that.
Sometimes when we're doing this work, we'll think, is this message for me? Is it for them? Mm-hmm. Well, then it's for both.
Yeah. Yeah. There's usually never a reading. I'm going to say there's never a reading that I do on any given day that there isn't something for me as well. And I used to shy away from that and not even acknowledge it. And Spirit said, it's important that we create that relatability, that none of us are excluded in the gift of working with Spirit. And we're all, whether we feel the connection or not, we're always connected. So in that, we're just so taken care of. We're so taken care of. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. A wonderful place to end. Mel, thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. This was so much fun. My honor.
Awesome. It was great to read with you. I hope everybody had a great time, and listening to parts of your story, Mel, is inspiring, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It was kind of nice to talk about it. I typically don't, as I said, because people, they want to know, they want their questions answered. So yeah, it's kind of, it was, sometimes it's hard to talk about yourself, but
well, I think you did wonderful. It's the years of experience. All right. Anything that you'd like to add before we go?
Well, number one, I want them to come to your channel and subscribe.
Thank you.
And hit that thumbs up for Kevin. And he's an amazing psychic. So call him up for a session. And
thank you.
If you want to get a hold of me, 847-590-5411. Of course, I have my YouTube channel, the Aloha Shirt Psycho. No, the Aloha Shirt Psychic. And if you want the gorilla tour, give me a call. But
wonderful.
But before any of that, just hit thumbs up and subscribe to Kevin's channel.
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate it. And do the same. If you have not subscribed, which I'd be surprised if you haven't, head over to Mel's channel. The link is in the description box, and I will add the number to reach you for any of the offerings that you were sharing. So thank you so much, and we will do this again. Thanks everybody for being here. Bye for now.